It was a typical day at the office. We had a big meeting planned for our CEO, a new CEO, and he was going to be meeting with our lowest income customers and their consumer advocates. We didn't have a clue what these customers go through on a daily basis and the choices that they have to make. So we prepared. We put together tons of materials, at least a foot high of material, explaining what we were doing and what we could do different, and there really wasn't much we could do. We wanted to help, but we just didn't really think that there was much that we could do on a huge issue like poverty, and especially energy poverty, because that's our business. Now, we prepared everything and we got very busy, and we did everything we thought we needed to do. But I had this thing in the bottom of my stomach. I just knew that there was something that wasn't right. And I was very anxious about it. We prepared for the media response. And of course, we knew the media response was going to be negative. And of course, then what we were prepared for was the political the backlash that, of course, we knew we would then have to take on. So all in all, not a good day at the office. We weren't very optimistic about the meeting. Now, honestly, I'm going to tell you one other thing. We were a little bit worried about the new CEO. He was new. He came from the Midwest. We didn't know him. He kept his own counsel. He didn't read the speeches we wrote for him. He didn't automatically agree with what we said. So we weren't quite sure what was going to happen. But we were anxious and nervous about the meeting. So the next day comes, and the consumer advocates and the low-income customers from 4 states come. It's a big meeting room, not quite as big as this, but it was packed. They arrived prepared. They came early. They had a list of demands. They had ideas. They had stories about how we had treated them. And they were not stories that we wanted to hear. Now, who are these people? In the first place, I have to admit to you, I didn't know much about them at all. But they're people from 4 states in the southern United States. They represent 3 of the states that are always at the top list of people with poverty. Between 15 and 20% of the population live in poverty. And in particular, these were people from the Mississippi River Delta. And the Mississippi River Delta is an area that there are many counties and parishes where the child poverty rate is over 50%. So we were dealing with experts. They knew about poverty. They knew what it cost and how to get by. And they were having problems, and we were not helping them. So if you've ever had again, that little rumble in your tummy that you feel like something's not going to go right. So the boss comes in, and he walks up to the meeting. He greets everyone, and we're all ready for a long, hard day. And he stands up and he says, "You're right. We're not doing what we ought to be doing. We ought to be doing more. I'm going to make sure that all of the resources and all of the people I have available to me are going to be here to help you. And we're going to work together, and we're going to get this done. And by the way, we know we're not going to win that much, because when you work with the invisible, you lose a lot. You lose often. This is a group of people that are used to winning, who like winning, who are addicted to winning. And, you know, our careers are flashing before our eyes, because we're saying we've now got to make the invisible visible and help the blind see. I mean, how are we going to do that? Well, the minute he started talking, my world changed because I was set off on a new career path. And it's been one of the most rewarding and frustrating and invigorating assignments that I've ever had in my whole life. And I've gotten to do a lot of fun things. So I want to tell you a little bit about it. My boss understood some 15 years ago that energy poverty is real and it's holding us all back. Now, you can pay your bills, and I'm betting everyone in this room can. However, when other people can't, it holds you back. It costs you, and it robs all of us of our potential. As a society, we'll never reach our best selves. And, you know, now, luckily, we've got the UN that has said that this is the decade for sustainable energy for all. And our President of our United States has said, without access to energy, we'll not get ahead. We'll not be able to survive, and we'll not be able to prosper. We will not be able to deliver on the promise that each of us has for economic stability and a better future. Now, we get it. Okay, well, no, we believe it, but do we really get it? Do we really get that the situation is getting worse, that's not getting better? And that finding solutions to these things will go a long way to helping people get ahead. And because I believe that finding solutions to energy poverty will help people get ahead, I thought it was an idea worth sharing. Each of us really do have the power to change. We've been talking about change, and we have choices. And we can throw our hands up and say, poverty and energy poverty is too big a problem, and I can't do anything about it. And when you do that, you're absolving yourself of any responsibility to even try. Or what we can do is we can take the energy that we do have, and we can find the ways that we can change. There are a lot of good examples. Now, St. Augustine gave us an interesting perspective. It was that hope has two beautiful daughters, and their names are anger and courage. Anger at the way things are, and courage to see that they do not remain the same. So what's the lesson from St. Augustine today? The lesson is get mad. The next lesson is make some changes. Change is a synonym for hope. Believing in tomorrow and believing that you're going to be part of it. And we've got to have that courage, all of us. Politicians, business leaders, as well as you and me, and we've got to face those problems together. So what we need is a new national energy compact that uses our abundance to guarantee affordable access to all, based in fact, not emotion, on economics, recognizing that the problems of the poor affect us all. Now, I'm going to run through some statistics, and I would invite you, if you want to know anything more about these, please do give me a call or email me, and I'll send you this information. Rising energy prices really do restrict access to energy. Between 2005 and 2010, the energy prices grew at twice the rate of inflation, and today are 40% higher than inflation. Now, these rising prices can restrict energy to access to anyone who's on a budget, but it's a downright barrier to people who are poor, the elderly, the sick, and the people who depend on them, and this needs to change. The gap between affordable energy bills, and that's anything under 6% of your annual household income, and actual energy bills has grown 12% a year for the last 10 years. That gap is reaching almost $49 billion in our country today, and that gap needs to be closed. There are good programs in the United States and around the world that are helping in this, and I applaud them, but they're not enough. We've got to nurture these good programs. We've got to get the youth involved in helping us design some new ones. We've got to invest in them, and we've got to market them. And the Earned Income Tax Credit is a very good example. Last year, the Earned Income Tax Credit paid $62 billion to 27 million workers in America. But only one out of five didn't even apply. And why didn't they apply? It left $11 billion on the table. That's because they either didn't know about the program or they couldn't access it. And that needs to change. Among the 28 million people who are eligible for home energy assistance programs, a quarter of them don't receive any assistance at all. Why? Programs aren't funded at a level that we need them to be. And who uses these funds? 20% of these funds are helping veterans. In fact, the fastest growing group of people who use home energy assistance funds are veterans. And others who get help are at-risk families with small children, the disabled, and our senior citizens on fixed income. We owe them more, and this has got to change. For the most part, our society believes that access to food and health is their rights, and they are considered necessities. And my argument to you today is that while they are getting better funded, they're still underfunded, they're better funded, energy assistance funding is going down. Poorest families pay over 12% of their annual income for energy, and that's more than triple than any other income group. So less funding of these programs is hurting the families that need it the most, and this needs to change. Now, families have to make some hard choices. Do they feed their families or do they pay the heating bill? At least once a year, half the people on food assistance have to make this choice. And health suffers. Doctors tell us that health care costs go up and avoidable illnesses happen when people can't heat and cool their home. Education suffers. Teachers tell us that students must have access to energy-dependent technologies to get access to the programs and the materials and the resources they need, and this has got to change. Now, we've heard all the stories before about how low-income customers are a drag on business. But the fact of the matter is that they are one of our best customers because while they do struggle to pay their bills, they continue to pay their bills. And even in the lowest income bracket, less than 5% of the families are delinquent on their bills. In fact, they pay better than people who make more than $50,000 a year. So we really need to find these solutions. They exist. They're not sexy, they're not fun, they're not trendy, they're not easy. There's no polite dinner conversation about them, or they don't show up at the latest black tie ball. But if you want some alone time, just try talking about energy poverty to people and you'll see what happens. The other thing is we have the prejudice and ignorance that surround the issues and the facts of poverty writ large, and it's mirrored in energy poverty as well. Wholesale blaming and shaming those who need help is wrong. It's wrong factually, historically, economically, legally, and morally, and it's not effective. So help me out here. What has to happen? That's right. This has got to change. I think back to the first meeting and how the boss listened with an open heart and an open mind. And then he stood up and spoke his truth. And he then followed it up with action, with money, what that meant to the people who worked for him and to those people who are his customers. So I want you to remember all that, all of you future CEOs. You have the power to change what really needs changing. Use it. Use it for ideas that matter. We can reduce energy poverty. We can change the economics and the culture of it. We can do better. Let's do it together. And I thank you for listening.